I'll call a meeting to order. We have established that we do have a quorum. We have 14 out of 18 members, which is very good. You found, I'm going to start around the attendance list, and would you please look especially carefully at your email addresses so that both Brian and I have those and be sure they're correct. And we have Bill Colby is joining us tonight for the first time, and Jeff was new last year. I think most of you know Jeff. Bill, do you know people at the table, or would you like introductions?
I'll learn them as we go along.
All right, thank you. So I'll start this around. You found when you sat down the budget, which we got late this afternoon. The girls in the office have worked very hard to get it in our hands. And as far as we get into it tonight, we'll go very slowly. I have barely had time to look at it. You also found a copy of the revised ordinance. Those of you who've been on the committee for a while will remember that we used to start in December, and last year we revised our ordinance and are presenting it to the town this year to adopt. I took the liberty of going by the new ordinance this year and not starting till January, although maybe it isn't quite official, but so we will be seeing that on the warrant at town meeting, and I thought you should all have a copy of it. That's about the only change that we made when we revised it, was that we went from meeting in December just for organizational purposes and decided to just do that at the first meeting in January. That seemed to make more sense. There are people who were elected in 2014 who need to either tell me tonight or let Harriet know that they are willing to be on the ballot again in 2016. And I thought I had a copy of what I sent out, but I don't know what I sent out. So I'll tell you who you are again, just to be sure. Dorothy, are you willing to run again? Good. And Brian, you've said
Yes.
you would? And David? No. Okay. And Rex? Okay. And Percy has told me he will. Arthur Coach, I'll have to find out. Mike, are you willing to run again? Yes. Thank you. And Keith? Yes. And Jeff, you've already told me you're willing to. Okay, I will give Harriet that list, and your names will appear on the ballot, and it looks like we're going to need to drum up a few new people, too. I went out and kind of shanghaied Jeff last year, so maybe I'll have to try that again. But the next thing on the agenda is to elect a chair, a vice chair, and a secretary for the coming year. All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Percy has said he is willing to stay, and Brian has said he is willing to stay, and sometimes I don't think I have a choice, but I don't mind staying again. This is beginning my 27th year on the Budget Advisory Committee. So, and given the fact that I turned 80 last month, I do think that the time is going to come, you're going to have to elect somebody else. But is there any other discussion? Any other nominations? Hearing none, I'll move the question. Those in favor of keeping the same slate of people we've had? And anyone opposed?
Motion passes 14 to 0 to 0.
The next thing we need to do by our ordinance is state exactly what we will be what we want to establish for meeting dates and times for the work for this year. Do I have any suggestions? Keith?
Motion that we go with Thursdays throughout this month. Last, it seemed to work the last two times. So, if we have to extend it, we'll go on to the Thursday in February. I don't think we need it.
All right, so your motion is that we meet all the Thursdays in January and into February if necessary.
Second.
All right, any discussion? Yes.
Time, 7 to 9.
Okay, well, I was going to do that separately, but Yes, if you want to add that to the motion, that we meet from 7 till 9? Is that all right with you, Keith?
That's fine with me.
Okay. All right, the motion before you then is that we meet on Thursdays from 7 until 9 through January and into February if we need to. Any other suggestions or comments? All right, those in favor of that motion? Those opposed?
You opposed? Oh. Motion carries 14 to 0 to 0.
James, I guess you're up. Oh, excuse me, Marge.
Okay. Yeah, well, I was probably one of the few that picked up my budget booklet this afternoon. I think it's difficult for people, especially a new member, if they get the booklet at the meeting and they haven't had a chance to look it over. I know when we were elected, the citizens of Searsport elect us to do what we hope to do, a thorough job on this. And I think it's difficult if you don't get it ahead of time. I know when I get mine, I spend a lot of time looking at it and highlight things so I'll know if I have some questions. And I think that I'm wondering about in the future, if it's going to be another situation like this, that we won't be able to get these until the meeting, if we should just postpone the meeting a week so people will have a chance to look that over.
Read fast.
I'm sorry?
Read fast.
Well, I had a chance to read it because I picked this up today, but I don't think, did
No,
everybody?
you were the only one, Marge,
I
that,
was the only one that had it, I'm the only one that read it. I'm sorry?
I agree with Madge.
all right. We'll keep that in mind for another year, and we may want to look at changing our ordinance again, not starting until mid-January, but,
Well, just
Anyway,
as long
we'll
as
just-
if we have I mean, it was unfortunate because it was a snowstorm, so that's what delayed this.
well,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and
It
yes,
wasn't
and
anybody's
it's,
fault or
and it's
anything.
always a scramble, I know, for the town office at the end of the year to get it to us, so. Yes, Dorothy? Do you have a microphone?
Go ahead.
Says push too.
I didn't see it.
I didn't either. I do apologize. I want to follow up exactly what you were just saying about the town people having to scramble. Would this been available to us a few days ago?
Actually, it wouldn't. The snowstorm, the only snowstorm we had, basically for the season, happened to happen on the last meeting that the selectmen had. And because they have to post, and as we do, 7 days prior, you can't just pop in together and have a meeting. I would have preferred not to have a meeting last night, and not to have this meeting, because I have a very bad flu. We ventured out last night, we got it wrapped up, and this was the soonest. Had we stayed on track with our meetings and not been delayed by the snowstorm, this would have been done at the end of the year, so you would have had a week with it. But the timing and the requirement to do proper posting put it so that it could only, the soonest it could get done was this morning and this afternoon. So.
Yeah, I can remember last year we did get it ahead of time, so.
Well, we almost always do have it.
Yes,
You know,
yeah.
a few days ahead of time. And so I think Marge's suggestion is well taken, that if we get into that situation again, we will just postpone for a week and make sure that the books are out. The girls in the office did, I must say, volunteer to call everybody this afternoon, but that just seemed like too much confusion, and it was, people were working, and so I didn't have them do that. I said I'd just bring them tonight, so
Okay.
that's a good suggestion, Marge. We'll certainly keep that in mind if we run into the delay again, so. Is there anything else before we begin? Rex?
I did get a call from the town office today, and the only way that I picked it up was on my
call log on Time Warner, but there's no message left. So if somebody's calling from the town office, ask them to leave a message.
Is there anything else? All right, James, you're up.
Thank you. And if you want to end tonight's meeting early, I would be all in favor of that. I think we have enough time as long as the weather doesn't turn on us. I do want to say the department heads worked pretty hard. I set them out in early November to bring in a budget that was as close to last year's or less as possible, because we were faced with an 8.25% increase in insurance rates this year. So that's actually a pretty good number when it compares to the open market, but it's still something we were up against. We had some battles within the budget that are fixed. This coming year, we're going to try to expand our paving because we have some roads that are in really, really bad shape. And we've been burdened with an underdrain on Prospect Street that we've been dealing with for the past 3 budgets, and we're still stuck with it, and we still have to finish it. So we knew on the onset we needed to add $25,000 to reserves to do some of these critical paving jobs. We're hoping that the cost of pavement goes down, and that might leave us in a better position. We also have had an issue in front of us with the fire department. You can control the amount of money you put in the budget, but you can't control how many fires you have. And they were over budget this year, and we anticipate needing to adjust for that. We knew that going into it. And we have an issue with getting volunteers to help with the ambulance corps. So we knew we had to make some adjustments there as well. But altogether, I think they worked pretty hard and brought in a budget, and the selectmen have worked on it, trimming it and adjusting, that is 1.79% greater than last year. And the increase in budget is $41,765. That's on page 24 if you want to look at it. This is our part of the budget. We don't have control over what happens at the school as a town, and we don't have anything as far as control of what the county does. And but we're here, and I think they've done a pretty good job to bring it in at or below where we're at. And I guess that's all I really have on the subject. Certainly answer questions.
Rex?
The 8.25% increase in insurance rates, what kind of insurance is that?
That's Maine Municipal Association.
Is it employee insurance?
Yes.
Or is it liability for the
No.
town?
Well, wow, that's a great question because it's 8.25% for the health insurance cost. We also have been hit with a higher workers' comp premium, and that actually got caught up to us last year. Workers' comp, and as we get into the budget, we'll be explaining, is a number that is calculated over a 3-year period. And a couple of years ago, we had an injury that it took somebody out for 6 months, and a couple of other injuries, not as long, but that had a definite impact on our insurance rate. And this year, they're telling us that we had to increase the workers' comp portion of insurance by $5,000, and you know, that's also something that affects us.
So if, with an 8.25% increase on employee insurance, is that still something that the town is endeavoring to pick up for the employee?
Yeah, well, basically, the selectmen were heading out for a 0% increase for salary because of cost of living. But instead of doing that, they did a flat $350 across the board because that covers the increase to the employee for the insurance. So we didn't want the board didn't want the employees to actually be going backwards when cost of living was 0. So they endeavored to cover the insurance cost.
But that also doesn't cover the cost, the increase in the cost to the town.
Correct, correct,
That's over and above the cost of the town.
correct.
Gotcha.
James, I have a question about the decrease in the cost of fuel this year and last year. Has that made any difference in the budget?
It has, and as we get into it, you'll see, one of the bullet points I put out to the department heads was that fuel prices are down and the budget should consider it. Heating oil prices are down and projected to stay down. The start of the season is mild, and some predictions show a mild winter. We can probably cut in that area as well. So those were some of the directions I gave to the boards, to the department heads. And as we get into the budget, you'll see some pretty significant decreases. In some places, we're actually gambling a little bit because when you look at what we spent in actual expenses over the past 4 years, we haven't made budget each year. We've been over. So it's a little bit of a gamble. I'm hoping that we will be fine with it. But we did make some pretty good cuts in those.
All right, anything else from James? Hearing the sentiment around the table, I would entertain a motion to adjourn and start out next week when we've all had a chance to look at the book a little more, and James, I hope, will feel better.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes.
Yes, Dorothy?
Would you just like to go through a page or two tonight while you've got us here? Just go
It-
slowly?
That's what I'm asking you. I'm game for whatever, and if James feels that he's okay for a bit, then I'm game to go through a few of the accounts at least.
Well, I'm just thinking we could stay and do an hour and then go and not stay to 9 o'clock if we adjourned at 8.
Do you want to make that in, well, we have a motion on the floor, so. No, we haven't done
No, we
anything
haven't done
about it.
anything
We
yet.
just-
It's
we just
discussion
have-
time.
This is a
Yep.
discussion.
I think James, being a good soldier, would be here if he was on his deathbed.
I
So-
agree.
So
I was last night.
we don't need to infect anybody else here.
All right, I'm going to move the question then. The question before you is to adjourn now and take up next week. Those in favor of that motion?
Okay.
All right, I don't think anybody's opposed.
Motion carries 14-0.
All right, and I am sorry that it puts us in the same place that we corrected the ordinance to try to get away from, but I think, you know, given the circumstances with the storm and so forth, that it probably is the wisest thing to do. So I will adjourn. Oh, before I adjourn, there's one more thing I wanted to be sure and mention. As I said in the mailing that I sent out, the out-of-house accounts will happen on the 21st. Linda has the letters out, she's got them back, and she has developed a schedule for us so that we'll be hearing the presentations in the order that they got their paperwork back to the town this year, as a way of just kind of trying to be fair about assigning time slots instead of going through the whoever gets here first and puts a name on a paper routine that we've been doing. So, question, Rex?
Will the out-of-house accounts be notified in regards to approximately when we'll need them here?
Yes, they have been. Yes, Linda's got
Thank you.
that all taken care of. James?
Okay. In spirit of trying to move quickly when we reconvene, who would you like to be here? Because I'd like to have folks lined up and ready to answer questions, department heads. I expect we can get a good ways into it. Traditionally, we usually get through public safety, take a break, and then complete the rest. In the past couple of years, we've been able to do it in about 2 meetings, and we've had public safety and everyone here. I just want to know who you might want to have here.
All right, suggestions for department heads that you'd like to hear from?
I would suggest those that Jim thinks that we're going to cover that night, and maybe one more. I assume your department heads are salaried, they're not hourly people.
Depends on the department. Some are and some aren't,
Or maybe you need to put the hourly person
first.
first, or rearrange the schedule, have them start the day a little later.
Yeah, well, we can manage that.
Yeah.
I'll have everyone here we need, if that's what you want.
That's what I'm hearing. Any other suggestions for people you want to be really sure we hear from? At least that first meeting. All right, hearing none, I will declare us adjourned, and I'll see you all next week, and thank you.